a little bit far.
I can't eat that big.
It's all right if there's talking.
Sorry.
You don't have to be super quiet just because this is
I
on.
can't eat that big.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'd like to know who makes herbal teas. And I don't mean like just with a tea bag. So do you make, you can just raise your hand if you want, herbal teas with fresh or dried herbs?
I haven't in a long time.
Okay.
I want to.
All right, great. No one does?
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is great then. I have something to teach you. Okay. So we're going today, I'm going to take you through the process of making tea, and then you will be able to mix your own dried little batch that you can take home in one of these bags. And then I will also, I'll probably just give you this. These are on Amazon, or sometimes health food stores have them. They're sealable tea bags. So basically you're making your own tea bag. I'm going to give you one each. But you just put, so you'll get your bag that you mix your own blend. You're going to write down your recipe. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then when you go home, you could put about 2 teaspoons in one of these and pull it tight. And there you have your own tea bag. So I kind of like call myself a tea snob a little bit. I have a booklet I wrote. It's called Everything You Need to Know About Making Herbal Tea. It's on Amazon. And in there I say I'm a tea snob. So I pick on tea bags, although I do purchase some boxed teas sometimes. The reason why is they might taste, some brands actually have some really nice flavors. I like Yogi. I don't know if I have another one that I like that much, but for the most part, when you get tea already in a bag, it's what would be considered highly processed, like junk food kind of is highly processed. The herb is usually old, it's cut, it's like powdered, sometimes has like natural flavors, preservatives, additives. You don't always get just pure herb. And if you go home and you have boxes of tea, and I have tea, I buy them still because there are some that I like Throat Coat. There's a what is the brand? Traditional Medicinals. So I like that brand too. But as far as like doing something to really like help the body heal or change a condition, they're not strong enough and the herbs are not good quality enough. So you can try and experiment. After you do what we do today and you put your tea in your tea bag, go home and open up a box. Does everyone have boxes of tea at home? Just like rip open one of the tea bags and pour it out into your hand and look at it and see how it looks. Because if I were, let's say I had no other herbal medicine and I was going to like help someone in my family, they had a cold or a sore throat, I would probably have to use about 5 or 6 bags of tea bags and steep it very long to get the effect of one of something that was made with herbs I had were like good quality or that I had dried myself, and still don't know if it would be good enough, like the 5 or 6 in comparison. So anyway, that's why I'm a tea snob, because it's like after you make something from scratch, bake, after you bake or cook, and then you go and buy the other version that is store-bought, or your homemade spaghetti's better, or your homemade pies are better. It's the same kind of principle. Okay, so what I brought with me today, and does everyone garden? What about growing herbs? Raise your hand. What do you have coming up right now?
I haven't put them in yet.
So the perennials that came up, anybody have any? herbs?
Rosemary, sage, and oregano.
Yeah, they are all coming up. So this is some peppermint that we cut the other day, and I have been letting wilt in this bowl. So this is one way I dry. I have a dehydrator. I also put herbs in paper bags, and you can cut the herb. So sometimes when I'm at the grocery store, I'll buy I'll take the big paper bags instead of the plastic bags, and then I'll save them. And you put about half full with your herb. You don't want to fill the bag all the way. And then fold it over, label it, put the date, and then you shake the bag a couple times a day. And paper bag method for drying works really well. Takes about 2 weeks though total. Where if I dehydrate with my dehydrator, it's only a couple hours. So this is another way. I just set the herbs in a bowl. I put a paper towel underneath, but you do have to kind of turn them. So this is wilted peppermint. I did wash my hands. I am going to make tea for us with this herb. So when I make tea in the months of the year where the plants are blooming, I always use fresh herbs. It's just like, why not? You know, in the winter you have to work with the dried because there are no fresh unless you have a greenhouse. So when your plants are growing, you might as well use the fresh herbs for tea. So tools to make tea. You want to have a tea kettle. Now this is an electric one. I'm going to plug it in. So a tea kettle for your stove, or I actually like to use a saucepan instead, and you want to boil your water. And then this, you don't have to have like a teapot, but I like to do this if I'm making enough for like a bunch of people, like this group. I might have to make 2 of these. So you have your teapot. Into your teapot, you would put your herbs. So I'm just going to put quite a bit. Usually it's 1 teaspoon per cup of water. So either 1 teaspoon fresh, 1 plus teaspoons. No, I'm sorry. When it's fresh, it's a little bit more. So like 1 to 2 teaspoons fresh, 1 teaspoon dried, and it doesn't have to be exact. It's not like baking, like you won't mess up if you put more. If you put less, you just have a weaker tea. So I'm just putting this in here, and then I'm gonna boil this water a while. So these are nice, these electric when you travel. And at the shop I have this because although I have a kitchen, I don't have a stove there. That might take a little while. Okay, so you can also just boil your water on your stove and then take your mug and put your herbs at the bottom of your mug and then pour the water on top. And then to steep, I usually just take a little plate and set it on top of my mug. That's if I'm just making enough for just one serving for myself. Put the lid on top of the mug and steep. And it is important to steep just so you can pull more of the good components from the herb into the cup. So this is some spearmint and peppermint I just cut earlier today. So I kind of wanted to take you through like the steps, like if you were going to make your own teas. So step 1, you would have your herbs growing. And so I did not cut all the way down to the ground. Let's say my plants were about this high. I just topped them pretty much. So I cut about half of the plant, leaving the rest there. So this is good for two reasons. It makes the plant continue to produce. If they're starting to flower and you cut the tops off, you can still use like whatever herb you're working with to make tea. Even if it has little flowers, that's fine. But by cutting them back, you stop the flowering from happening, so you have like more of a harvest time. Usually I cut my herbs for a number of months, and then either get tired of it, or I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let you flower now, and then you just kind of let them go, let your plants flower, let them seed, and then you can collect the seeds if you want. So plants are cut. Then the next step is to dry. So you would either like use a bowl like this with paper towel. Anybody have a dehydrator? Okay. You can also put your plants, your herbs on a tray and put it in the oven on the lowest setting, or sometimes even just the light of the oven. It takes a while though, and you do want to check regularly. Your plants can burn. You can over dry them. They become like super crispy and like they'll smell like burnt. So if that happens, just compost. Honestly, you don't really want to make tea with burnt herbs, but you can dry in an oven, like, you know, just in your kitchen. Paper bag, anybody can do that method, so that's super easy. So now you have dried herbs. I should have mentioned this. I'm gonna pause and mention this. So one thing that I asked for, I just posted it on Facebook. From this time of year, especially, and all through the growing season, I ask for interns, people who want to learn how to help, like, with the whole process of start to finish, planting, growing, cutting, drying, and then making the medicine at my shop in Raresburg. So I have about like 6 or 7 interns right now, and I give trade of service and or sending home herbs with you. So, well, if anyone is interested in that, you can just talk to me about it. I usually do Monday through Wednesday in the mornings for that help. So anyway, what I was gonna say, I thought of it because I always have help. I can't pick and dry everything myself. So the other week, my friend, she helped me pick dandelion flowers. So you can see how they started to like fuzz a little bit. You can still make tea with the flowers when they're like this. And you want to cut them like once the dandelions open up, it's like almost right away you pick them. If you wait too long and you dry them, they'll turn into total puff balls. So that I don't use them that way for tea, but in this condition, they still have part of the yellow flower and they have the green stem. They're still useful. Anybody eat dandelions in the spring? Michelle?
I do.
Okay. Which part?
I usually eat the leaf, like for salad, or the flowers in the salad.
Oh, yeah.
I usually just like a fresh dandelion salad.
Yeah, me too. Kat?
The flowers.
The flowers, do you just put them in salads? Or
I tried making tea with them. They came out good with sugar.
what did you try
I
to?
tried to make tea with them. They came good with sugar.
Oh, okay.
I've tried stems before. When I worked up at Mario's, his wife, I don't know, she made them some way that they were really good, and I don't know what she did, but
Yeah.
that's the one time I've tried them.
Every spring I watch lots of videos about eating dandelions, and then I never follow through.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right there with her.
Yeah, it's like I can't wait for the dandelions to come up, and you have to kind of get out there right away because the leaves are best in salad before the flower. So you have about a week until the flowers come up, and then once the flowers come up, then you pick the flowers right away so that you can dry them without them turning into the puff balls. And then if I feel like it, I dig up roots too, because dandelion root tea is really, really good. Dandelion is like your spring cleaning herb. So like you spring clean your house after the winter, eating all parts of the dandelion, drinking teas is like spring cleaning your body after a winter of heavy foods, heated foods, you know, baked goods. You just get that like toning through your whole body. So so those dandelions I dried, and then these rose petals I didn't dry. I usually only dry a couple different flowers. Roses, you have to have a lot of bushes to dry the rose. I hear water, it's getting close. So I think, yeah, where were we in the pattern here? So you have your fresh herbs, you cut them, you dry them, then you, when they're fully dry, and to know if they're fully dry, they crinkle. Like you'll hear them crinkling when you like touch them with your hands, or bend. You can bend, and that's like the breaking test. If they like snap, they're dry. If they do not snap, then they might need to dry a little bit more. And sometimes you have to, like, for instance, the leaf part of this plant is going to dry faster than the stem. So I have to make sure the stem is dry. I might have to let my herbs sit another week before they're fully dry, because the stem will take longer. If you put your herbs in a jar before they're dry, they're going to mold. So you definitely want to have everything dried. So then your herbs are dry, you put them in jars, you label. I always tell people, please don't forget to label. Make sure you put the herb. If you want to get fancy, you can put the Latin name for the herb, and then also the date. So there only a few times I was lazy and didn't put the herb. I'm like, oh, I'll remember, because it's obvious what it is. And dandelion I would not mess up, but there were a couple things that I did that with, and then I didn't get back to labeling it, and I wound up just composting. I don't use plants that I put in a jar and then don't remember what they are, because some of them are very strong and powerful. So always label and put your dates. Herbs dried in the right condition, meaning out of the sun, like in a cupboard or cabinet, I would say are good for 2 years. They could last longer, but they start to fade. They start to have less potency. I'm sure I've had some herbs for longer than 2 years, but I would say like 2 years is a long enough time to keep them. So try to use them up. All right, then you're going to mix your teas after you have done these steps. And that is what we are going to do today. So I think what I'll do is pour the water's almost done. Pour the water in here. I'm going to have you all mix, and then when you're done mixing, I'll just pour you a little bit of tea to try. I'm also going to pass this little notebook around. I'd appreciate name and email if you have an interest in being added to my newsletter. And I'm gonna skip you right now. Or
You're totally good.
okay. Can everyone smell the herbs?
Mm-hmm.
You should after I do this. Any questions so far?
I'm not doing anything.
And I did bring along with me some local honey. There's a girl who lives in Burnville, and she has hives, and I sell her honey in my shop, and I just brought some of her honey along if you're interested in taking that home today. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go wash my hands one more time and spearmint. So you're going to write down all the herbs, and then so you have 10 teaspoons that you can use. So maybe you say like, and we call this parts. So you'd be like, let's do 1 part ginger, 2 parts spearmint, so 2 teaspoons spearmint. I really like dandelion, so I'm gonna do 2 parts dandelion. Do you know what I mean? So you're gonna write your own kind of recipe. Then when you come up, that's what you'll do. You'll maybe bring your card up with you, and then you're gonna take your spoons and put into your bag the recipe you wrote.
Question, you know?
Yeah.
Shave grass, you said?
Yeah.
What are the properties for that one?
Shave grass is high in silica, so it is typically used for hair, skin, nails, teeth, and also nourishing the nervous system.
And the calendula, I know that's usually for healing, like for
Yeah.
skin and stuff.
Calendula is topically very good for the skin, but also if you take it internally, another good skin herb. Urinary tract, kidneys. So yeah, I could tell you all the herbs. Dandelion, liver tonic, kidney bladder tonic, rose, sweet. I think of it as like a heart tonic. So it's like soothing, brings joy. Red raspberry leaf is high in vitamin C and other minerals and nutrients. So I did shave grass, calendula. Spearmint is the stomach digestive kind of herb, and ginger, good for circulation and also another digestive herb. So I just want to wash my hands so I can put these herbs in the bowls. Meanwhile, how about I pass around I wouldn't use like more than 1 part ginger unless you really like ginger. Which I do, but I still wouldn't use more than 1 spoon. Does everyone know what you're doing? Do you need me to explain it again?
What was the name? Shaved grass?
Shave grass. Yeah.
Like S-H-A-V-E?
Mm-hmm, like shaving, shave, and then the word grass.
Okay, thank you.
What was the one that starts with C?
Calendula.
How do you spell that?
Calendula. It's marigold, basically.
Yeah, C-A-L-E-N-D-U-L-A.
That was a little too fast for me.
So let me give you a little tip. The flowers are usually not the base of your recipe, and like something spicy like ginger is not usually the base. So the 3 herbs that would be your base would be spearmint, red raspberry, or dandelion. And when I say base, that means like your flour, like if you were baking, like it's your biggest ingredient. Then you would use the flowers as like a lesser ingredient, and then the ginger kind of adds a little bit of kick and heat. I mean, you could do 2 parts ginger, especially if you feel like you need some digestive herbs. Like it's very, very good for digestion. But So we won't have like recipes that are totally different. But those are my recommendations.
Mostly strawberry and raspberry.
Yeah.
The herbs, do they have like different tastes to them? Like, are some sweeter than others or
Yeah, definitely.
more bitter?
So, rose is sweet. Dandelion flower, I don't want to say it's sweet. It's tiny bit bitter, but it's not very bitter. The red raspberry is slightly like has vitamin C, so it's like slightly astringent. It has a nice like citrusy kind of note. Calendula is floral. The spearmint you probably are familiar with, and then the ginger. Shave grass does not have a very strong taste. It is sort of like a grassy undertone. So I was debating, you guys, mixing this in the bowl and then putting it in the bag, but maybe you can just go right to the bag. I don't want to. I think if you just come up and get a bag and just, hold it open and go through and do your 10, then I would close it and try to shake it around. You might have to wait till you go home and pour it out into a bowl and mix it better, because I think if we mix, it's just going to be a mess. So just put it all in your bag. You might have to mix it around better later. So anybody